Have you ever wondered why the one you love seems distant, as if you must chase what your heart already knows is yours? What if I told you, you never had to chase, never had to plead, never had to lift a single finger? For the great secret is this: your SP can't resist you when you imagine them as already yours. This is not effort. This is not pursuit. It is imagination, the divine act that creates reality. Today you shall learn the law that governs all relationships, the law of assumption, and why, when you live from the end, love rushes to you without resistance. There was a time in my own life when I desired affection from someone who seemed entirely beyond my reach. I thought, as many do, that love must be earned, that affection must be convinced or conquered. But the night I stopped reaching outward and turned inward, the truth revealed itself. I sat quietly in my room and imagined, not that I was desiring love, but that I was already loved. I heard the tender tone of their voice. I felt the warmth of their embrace, and I allowed that feeling to saturate my entire being. I did not lift a finger. I simply imagined. Days later, the outer world reshaped itself. The person I thought was distant reached out, not because of persuasion, but because consciousness had already united us. You see, the law of assumption knows no distance, no resistance, no time. When you assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled, the universe must conform to that assumption. Your specific person, your SP, becomes the mirror of your own inner belief. You do not attract them by force. You call them forth by your imaginal act. The moment you accept the truth that imagination creates reality, you cease all outer effort. You rest in the invisible, knowing that love already belongs to you. Many ask, how can I make my SP think of me? My answer is, cease asking. Instead, feel that you are already the one being thought of. Let that inner feeling be your reality. When you sleep tonight, imagine that the one you desire is beside you. Feel the security, the warmth, the contentment of that union. Your subconscious accepts what you feel as true and begins to outpicture it in the physical world. Do not check the mirror of circumstances, for the outer world always lags behind the inner assumption. Continue living as though your desire were fulfilled. The unseen world moves, and what was once unseen will stand before you. Love does not resist you, only your disbelief does. Let go of effort and enter the stillness of imagination. For when you feel love, love must appear. There is only one creative power in this world, and that power is imagination. Everything seen, heard, touched, or experienced is but the shadow of an imaginal act. The world you call reality is not a fixed creation outside of you. It is a living mirror, obediently reflecting the images impressed upon it by your inner state of consciousness. The trees, the people, the events that unfold before you are not accidents or random encounters. They are manifestations of what you have assumed to be true within yourself. If you would change anything in your world, you must first change the imaginal picture from which the world proceeds. There is no one to blame, and there is nothing to beg from life. For life responds to you according to the beliefs and feelings you entertain. You are not a spectator in this grand theater. You are the author, the actor, and the stage upon which the drama unfolds. Consider for a moment the simplest experience: a friend speaks kindly to you. You might call it coincidence, but in truth, it is a reflection of a previous inner acceptance that you are worthy of kindness. If instead you had long dwelt on rejection or loneliness, then another scene would have unfolded, mirroring that state. This is the law of consciousness in operation. Whatever you imagine and feel to be true becomes your world, whether you call it pleasant or painful. When you say, I am, you are declaring the creative center of your being. Whatever follows, I am, will shape the substance of your life. If you say, I am unloved, you breathe life into isolation. If you say, I am desired, you summon affection from the unseen. The words themselves are not magic, but the feeling behind them is. Feeling is the fire that impresses your assumption upon the subconscious, and from that impression springs the visible fact. Do not imagine that the outer world exists first and causes your emotions. It is the reverse. The world is the effect, imagination is the cause. You are surrounded by the fruit of yesterday's thoughts and emotions. To lament them is to water the same seed again. Instead, lift your imagination to a higher concept of self. Assume the feeling of your desired state now, and persist until your mind and body accept it as natural. Then the world must obey, for the outer is powerless to contradict the inner conviction. This truth is simple, yet it requires discipline. For most live as victims of appearances, believing what the senses report to be final. They see the storm and declare there is no calm, forgetting that the calm was first an inner stillness before the storm subsided. They look at lack and call it real, not knowing it is merely an image born of fear. The wise, however, look beyond appearances. They understand that what they feel inwardly is the seed of tomorrow's harvest. Imagination creates reality, not some of it, but all of it. The job you hold, the house you live in, the people you meet, even the thoughts others think of you, all are drawn into alignment with the concept of self you hold. You do not have to manipulate people or conditions. Simply revise your inner assumption, and life will rearrange itself accordingly. If you imagine yourself to be abundant, opportunities will appear where none seem possible. If you imagine yourself to be loved, love will arise from unexpected places. It cannot be otherwise, for consciousness alone creates the conditions called reality. Let this truth free you from effort and fear. You need not strive to make the world conform to your wish. Simply accept within that it is already so. Feel the joy, the gratitude, the relief of your wish fulfilled. Let that inner satisfaction be enough. In due time, the invisible state will crystallize into fact, just as surely as a seed buried in darkness becomes a tree in the light. The greatest mistake is to separate imagination from reality, to think of it as fantasy. The imagination is not daydream. It is the very essence of creation. Every invention, every discovery, every work of art first existed as an image in the mind of man. You, too, are constantly imagining, constantly creating, whether you know it or not. The idle thought, the fleeting fear, the quiet hope, all are causes set in motion. Learn, therefore, to choose your imaginal acts wisely. When you close your eyes tonight, do not see yourself as a seeker of love, health, or success. See yourself being that which you desire. Hear the voices of friends congratulating you. Feel the emotions of fulfillment, and let sleep carry that feeling into the depths of consciousness. There, the idea takes root, and life begins to reorganize itself to make your inner picture visible. There is no limit to this power, save the one you impose by disbelief. You may test it in the smallest matters, and watch how faithfully the world reflects your assumption. Each proof will strengthen your conviction, until you no longer doubt that imagination is the cause of every condition. The outer world is a motion picture playing from a film within. To change the scene, you must change the real. Stop trying to adjust the screen. Go into the projection room of your mind and alter the image there. The moment you do, the next frame of your life begins to shift. This is the education of the spirit. To understand that the creative act is internal. Nothing exists apart from consciousness, and consciousness is always imagining. The wise learn to imagine deliberately, lovingly, and persistently. They know that when the feeling of the wish fulfilled becomes natural, the world must echo it back as fact. So when you say imagination creates reality, no, it is not poetry, it is law. The world is your imagination made visible. Believe this, live from it, and you shall prove it to yourself beyond all question. All separation is illusion. The person you call your specific person, the one you desire, is not truly apart from you. They exist within your consciousness, within the very fabric of your imagination. The outer form that you see, their actions, their words, even their seeming distance, are all expressions of an inner state you hold. To believe they are independent of your inner life is to hand your power to shadows. The truth is simple, there is no other. The world is yourself pushed out. Everything you experience, love, rejection, friendship, conflict, comes forth from the state of being you occupy. If you dwell in the assumption that you are unloved, the world must show you the reflection of that belief, not as punishment, but as law. The mirror does not argue, it reflects. But if you turn inward and begin to feel that you are loved, chosen, desired, and complete, then those who move through your world are compelled to express that truth. They cannot help but play their part in harmony with your inner conviction. The one you call your specific person is not a separate mind working against you. They are an actor in your play, taking cues from the inner script you write through imagination. When you revise the script, the character changes. You do not need to convince them, persuade them, or chase them. You only need to dwell in the feeling that the union you desire is already real. This is not theory, it is spiritual law. What you believe yourself to be, you outpicture as relationships and events. Every word spoken by another that touches your heart, whether in kindness or cruelty, begins first in you. It is the echo of a thought once accepted. Therefore, the task is not to alter others, but to assume the state that would naturally evoke the relationship you wish to see. Many say, but how can my assumption change another person's mind? The answer lies in understanding that consciousness is one. There are not many minds, but one universal consciousness expressing through many forms. When you change your concept of self, you change the entire field of consciousness relative to you. The person you call your SP, being a projection within that field, must respond accordingly. They are not being manipulated. They are being free to express the version of themselves that matches your new assumption. When you believe you are loved, you release every image of rejection. You cease to send out thoughts of separation. You stop expecting to be ignored. Instead, you radiate confidence and calm certainty, and this unseen vibration reorganizes the pattern of your world. Without lifting a finger, you begin to draw to yourself evidence of love's presence. This is why imagination is sacred. It is not a mere mental trick, but the creative power of the universe individualized in you. When you imagine your SP speaking words of affection, you are not fantasizing. You are impressing the subconscious with a new pattern of unity. The subconscious, being the womb of creation, accepts that feeling as truth and expresses it through the actions, dreams, and impulses of everyone concerned. The outer event is the final bloom of an inner seed. So when you think of your SP, do not dwell on what they are doing or not doing. Forget the outer picture. Instead, turn within and ask yourself, what am I imagining about them now? Do I see them as distant or near, indifferent or affectionate? What do I feel to be true about myself in relation to them? The answer reveals the state you are living in, and that state, whether of love or lack, determines what the senses will later report. You are not waiting for your SP to come to you. You are awakening to the realization that they have never left. In imagination, you are already united. Every time you feel the joy of togetherness, the subconscious moves to make that invisible union visible. You do not know the how, nor do you need to. The bridge of incidents will unfold naturally, and when it does, you will recognize that it was your inner assumption that wrote the story. It is important to understand that imagination does not work by force. It works by faith. Faith is not begging or hoping. It is the calm knowing that what you have imagined is already established in the unseen. To feel that certainty, even for a moment, is to plant the seed of reality. The longer you persist in that inner state, the faster it solidifies into experience. When doubt arises, remember your SP is not an independent being who must be convinced to love you. They are consciousness, as you are consciousness. And consciousness responds to its own belief. When you change the belief, they don't love me, to I am loved, the reflection must change. The person may be moved across miles, inspired to text, or suddenly reminded of you. You need not know the mechanics. You need only hold the feeling of being loved as true. In this realization lies freedom. You are no longer a beggar waiting for affection to be granted. You are the source from which love flows. When you imagine lovingly, you are not creating something new. You are revealing what has always been present in potential. The outer world is only catching up to the vision you now hold. To live from this awareness is to live in peace. You stop seeking validation outside yourself. You begin to understand that every loving encounter is your own consciousness smiling back at you. The separation dissolves and the illusion of resistance fades. Your SP cannot resist you because there is no longer a you and them. There is only the harmony of one consciousness expressing as two who love. So train your imagination to dwell in unity, not division. Speak inwardly as though love were already yours, for indeed it is. See your SP as already adoring you, cherishing you, drawn to you without effort. Feel it so deeply that the boundary between thought and reality disappears. For the moment you claim it in imagination, it is finished. The unseen will clothe itself in flesh, and what was once invisible will stand before you as fact. The one you love is not far away. They are an image in your mind, sustained by your feeling. Change the feeling, and you change the relationship. This is the education of the soul, to know that all others are yourself made visible, and that love begins and ends in the imagination. Do not chase, imagine. This single truth, when grasped, will free you from years of struggle, heartache, and wasted effort. The great mistake of man is believing that results come from outer action, when in truth all movement begins within. The visible world is only the echo of invisible imaginal acts. When you chase, you confess that the thing you desire is separate from you. You say by your behavior, I do not have it. And as long as you hold that assumption, life will continue to mirror lack. You may labor, plan, and plead, but you will find yourself running in circles, for no outer act can compensate for an inner disbelief. Creation is finished. All that you desire already exists in the unseen world, waiting for you to claim it. You do not make a new thing. You simply shift your awareness to the state in which it is already true. You do not chase love. You become love in consciousness. You do not chase wealth. You assume the feeling of abundance. You do not chase success. You walk as one who already is successful. The world then rearranges itself to confirm your assumption. When you imagine, you plant the seed of a new reality. When you chase, you trample the soil of your own creation. The one who imagines rests in faith, while the one who chases is driven by doubt. And doubt can never give birth to fulfillment, for it denies the very law that governs life, that what you feel inwardly must outpicture itself outwardly. The outer action is always secondary. It is a shadow following the movement of your inner state. When you change your consciousness, the right actions arise naturally, without strain. You are moved effortlessly into position by the invisible currents of your own imagination. The phone call, the meeting, the chance encounter, all these are the effects of your imaginal act. They are not causes, they are the bridge of incidents by which the unseen becomes seen. Many live as beggars before their own creation. They say, I will imagine, but I must also do something. They run from one method to another, one person to another, seeking proof that their desire is possible. Yet every act of pursuit is a confession of doubt. It is saying, it has not happened yet. The wise do not run, they rest. They know that the moment they have imagined and felt the wish fulfilled, the creative process is complete. The rest is simply the unfolding of time, bringing into visibility what already exists in the invisible. When you imagine, do so with conviction. Do not merely visualize, feel it as real. If your desire is for love, feel the warmth of being adored. If your desire is for abundance, feel the ease of financial freedom. Do not look outward for evidence. Create it inwardly through feeling. The feeling is the secret doorway through which the unseen enters this world. What you feel to be true becomes true. You are told, when you pray, believe that you have received, and you shall receive. That is the essence of this law. To believe you have received is to stop chasing and start imagining. It is to feel the reality of the fulfilled state now. You do not wait for proof, you become the proof. You live, move, and think as the one who already possesses the desire. And because consciousness is the only reality, life must take that shape. Observe the world around you, and you will see that everyone is living from imagination, some knowingly, some ignorantly. The man who complains that life is hard is imagining hardship. The woman who walks with quiet confidence is imagining success. They are both creating, but one imagines consciously, the other unconsciously. The difference between the dreamer and the chaser is awareness. The dreamer knows the outer follows the inner, while the chaser believes the inner depends upon the outer. Do not confuse motion with creation. Many people act constantly, but create nothing new, for their actions arise from the same old state of lack. True creation is silent, effortless, and inward. When you imagine with feeling, you move mountains without lifting a finger. The outer world bends itself to your inner conviction. The people, circumstances, and opportunities that align with your assumption will appear as if by magic. But there is no magic, only law. Rest, therefore, in the knowledge that imagination is the only power. The moment you imagine your wish fulfilled, the process begins. You may see no sign of change, but beneath the surface, the unseen is rearranging itself. The one who knows this does not grow impatient. They do not wonder how or when. They live in the end, trusting that the unseen is wiser than the seen. Their calm faith becomes magnetism. Without effort, they draw all things unto themselves. When you chase, you send out a vibration of need, and need repels. When you imagine, you send out a vibration of completeness, and completeness attracts. You do not need to convince another to love you, or a situation to change in your favor. The universe responds to the feeling of fulfillment, not to the cry of lack. Therefore, imagine only what implies your wish is already realized. Each time you feel tempted to act from fear or desperation, pause and return to imagination. Ask yourself, what would I do if I already had what I desire? How would I think, speak, and move? Then do that now, live in the end. Let your inner world be so saturated with the feeling of fulfillment that outer circumstances have no power to disturb you. The one who imagines rightly walks in peace. They know that no door can remain closed to one who sees it open within. They know that what they assume as true must be expressed. They do not chase because they understand that the thing they desire is already theirs in consciousness. The outer world is simply catching up. To imagine is to claim dominion over life. To chase is to surrender it. Choose imagination, and you align with the creative power itself. Choose chasing, and you remain bound to appearances. The moment you dare to assume that your wish is fulfilled, the power that created the universe moves on your behalf. And when you rest in that awareness, you find that the world comes to you, not through struggle, but through grace. Feeling is the secret. It is the golden key that unlocks the hidden chambers of creation. Every image you form, every word you utter, every vision you hold in mind remains powerless until it is clothed in feeling. The universe does not respond to idle thought. It responds to the vibration of emotion, to the conviction that lives behind the thought. The mind imagines, but the heart feels, and together they give birth to the world you call real. Without feeling, imagination is barren. With feeling, it is the womb of reality itself. When you close your eyes and picture the life you desire, that image is only the sketch. Feeling is the life that animates it. A picture of wealth means nothing unless you feel prosperous. A vision of love is an empty shell unless you feel adored. A dream of success will fade like mist unless you feel the joy of accomplishment. It is not enough to think about your desire. You must feel from it as though it were already accomplished. For feeling is the bridge between the invisible and the visible, the unmanifest and the manifest, the dream and its embodiment. This is why so many struggle. They imagine what they want, but they feel the opposite. They visualize abundance, yet feel fear of poverty. They speak of love, yet feel loneliness. They affirm health, yet feel anxiety about sickness. The subconscious does not hear your words, it feels your feelings. It accepts as true whatever you emotionally assume to be real. The words, "I am loved," mean nothing if you secretly feel unloved. But if, in stillness, you close your eyes and feel the warmth of being cherished, the subconscious accepts it as fact. From that acceptance, the outer world must mirror love back to you, for it cannot contradict the feeling it has received. Feeling is the divine language of creation. When you pray, you are not begging a distant power to grant your wish. You are impressing your desire upon the infinite through emotion. Every genuine prayer is a feeling of fulfillment. It is a quiet confidence that what you long for is already yours. The moment you feel it real, creation begins. The unseen responds instantly to your inner state. The world rearranges itself to reflect that vibration. You may not see it yet with your eyes, but it has already begun to take form in the unseen. Consider for a moment the artist who paints. The brush is the tool, but the emotion behind each stroke gives life to the canvas. If the artist paints without passion, the work is lifeless. But when he paints with feeling, even a simple image breathes. So it is with your imagination. The image itself is only color and line. The feeling you pour into it makes it alive. That inner emotional conviction is what draws the outer scene into being. When you practice this art, do not strain to feel. Simply relax into the mood of your fulfilled desire. Suppose you wish to be loved. Then imagine not the act of being pursued or chosen, but the quiet satisfaction of already being cherished. Feel the safety, the joy, the companionship that such love brings. Do not make it a struggle. Let the feeling come naturally. Rest in it, as you would rest in the warmth of sunlight. The longer you dwell there, the deeper the impression on the subconscious, and the faster the outer reflection appears. You have felt this power before, even without realizing it. Think of a time you feared something intensely. You saw it so clearly in imagination, and you felt it with such force that soon the thing you feared came to pass. That is the same law working in reverse. You created from feeling, but from the feeling of fear rather than faith. Now use that same power consciously and lovingly. Replace fear with the feeling of peace, doubt with the feeling of fulfillment, and watch the outer world change to match it. Every moment of your life you are feeling something, and those feelings are creating. You cannot turn the law off. You can only learn to direct it. The one who complains that their dreams never come true is simply unaware that they are continually feeling from the state of not having. To reverse this, one must deliberately assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled, even if only for a moment. A single moment of true feeling outweighs hours of empty thought. It is not imagination alone, but imagination with feeling that moves mountains. When you combine the picture of your desire with the corresponding emotion, you impress the subconscious deeply. It does not reason or judge. It accepts whatever you feel as true. And because the outer world is nothing but the shadow of the inner, it must reproduce that truth in form. The way you feel about yourself determines the quality of your entire world. When you awaken each morning, check not your circumstances but your mood, for your mood is your measure of belief. If you rise feeling defeated, the day will show defeat. But if you rise feeling victorious, the world must rearrange to honor that feeling. Train yourself, therefore, to enter each day with the feeling of already being the person you wish to be. Walk as one who possesses what you once sought. Speak as one who lives in the answer to their prayer. The feeling of fulfillment draws to itself every necessary event to make it visible. Do not wait for the outer to change before you feel different. That is the error of the senses. Feeling creates the change, not the other way around. To say, I will feel successful when I see success, is to deny the law. You must feel success now before the evidence appears. When you feel it real, even without proof, the unseen world begins to shape itself in harmony with your emotion. In time, the physical must yield. This is the secret every awakened soul discovers. Emotion is creation. The mind imagines, but the heart commands. When the two agree, the word becomes flesh. Therefore, guard your feelings as sacred. Do not indulge in moods of fear, resentment, or lack, for they are seeds of unwanted harvests. Choose deliberately the feeling that matches your desire and hold it as your reality. Feeling is not weakness, it is power in motion. It is the silent decree of creation, the invisible cause of every visible effect. What you feel, you create. What you persist in feeling, you experience. When you learn to feel your wish fulfilled and rest in that state, the world bows to your command, not because you forced it, but because you felt it real. The subconscious does not respond to words, nor is it persuaded by logic or reason. It accepts one thing only, feeling. What you feel to be true, it takes as truth and shapes the world accordingly. It does not question your worthiness, nor does it weigh whether the thing imagined is possible or impossible. It simply receives the feeling impressed upon it and expresses that feeling through the events and conditions of your life. The subconscious is the fertile soil of creation, and feeling is the seed. Whatever seed you plant will grow, whether it be of joy or sorrow, abundance or lack, love or rejection. You are constantly impressing the subconscious with feeling, though you may not realize it. Every emotion, every mood, every subtle reaction to life's appearances sends an instruction to the creative depth of your being. When you react in anger, fear, or self-pity, you are impressing the subconscious with those same vibrations. It then reproduces them in your outer world as more experiences to justify those feelings. This is why cycles of misfortune persist. People live in a continuous loop of feeling lack, witnessing lack, and feeling it again. But the moment one learns to direct feeling consciously, to choose emotions that match the desired state, the cycle is broken and life transforms. Feeling is the bridge between thought and reality. A thought without emotion is like a seed that has not been watered. You may think of wealth, speak of abundance, or visualize prosperity, but if deep within you feel poor, the subconscious receives only poverty. It listens not to your words, but to the tone beneath them. The universe cannot be deceived by hollow affirmations. It moves by the command of genuine emotional conviction. Therefore, if you would change your life, you must first change your feeling about life. Every feeling you sustain is an assumption about yourself. When you feel secure, you are assuming you are safe. When you feel unworthy, you are assuming you are less than others. These assumptions define your world, for your outer life can only reflect the state you occupy inwardly. To alter the outer, you must first alter the inner assumption. Begin by observing your moods throughout the day, for they reveal what you truly believe about yourself. The mood of joy, gratitude, or peace is evidence that you are aligned with your higher vision. The mood of doubt or fear shows you have wandered from it. Each mood is a creative act. When you desire to manifest something new, you must feel the reality of it now. Suppose you wish to experience love. Begin by entering the state of being loved. Imagine the warmth, the comfort, the quiet assurance of that relationship already existing. Do not merely picture it, feel it. Let the emotion of fulfillment fill your body until it feels natural. The subconscious will record that state as truth. In time, the outer world will conform, drawing to you the people and circumstances that mirror your new inner reality. Do not confuse effort with creation. The power lies not in struggling to change outer conditions, but in quietly assuming the feeling that those conditions are already changed. The moment you feel that your wish is fulfilled, you have impressed the subconscious. That impression must be expressed. You need not repeat it with anxiety or force, for repetition without belief only confirms disbelief. One moment of pure, undiluted feeling carries more creative power than 1,000 hollow repetitions. If your feelings betray you, if fear and doubt arise, do not resist them, simply replace them. The mind, like a garden, cannot hold two seeds at once in the same space. When you feel fear, gently shift your focus to love. When you feel lack, move your attention to gratitude. Each deliberate change of feeling is a new command to the subconscious. Persist long enough in the new mood, and it will become the natural tone of your being. From that tone, all things are added. It is not necessary to know how the outer will change. That is not your concern. The subconscious arranges the bridge of incidents by which the invisible state becomes visible. Your only task is to maintain the inner conviction that it is done. When you feel yourself already in possession of your desire, you align with the creative force of life. You enter a harmony that compels circumstances to shift. You may find new opportunities appear, people act differently toward you, and paths open that were once unseen. All this flows effortlessly because the inner command has been given through feeling. Remember that feeling cannot be faked. You cannot deceive the subconscious with forced emotion. You must truly feel it real. But true feeling does not mean intensity, it means sincerity. Even a gentle sense of relief, a quiet peace, a subtle knowing that it is done. These are powerful impressions. When you lie in bed and feel the satisfaction of already being what you wish to be, that state is accepted as truth. Fall asleep in that mood, and you have planted the seed of manifestation. Throughout the day, sustain the awareness that your feelings are creative forces. Watch carefully what you allow to occupy your emotional attention. Every complaint, every resentment, every fear is a misuse of the creative law. Instead, turn every emotion into an ally. Let gratitude replace discouragement, joy replace impatience, faith replace doubt. The subconscious is impartial. It will build whatever you feel most deeply. Choose wisely what you let it build. You are never punished for your feelings. You are only ever shown them. Life mirrors your emotional state with precision. If you do not like the reflection, do not curse the mirror. Change the image you hold within. The moment you feel differently, the world begins to change. That is the hidden education of the soul, to master the inner realm so fully that the outer must obey. Feeling is the secret to that mastery, for it is the language through which creation speaks. Whatever you feel as true, the universe must make true. To live in the end is to dwell in the state of the wish fulfilled, to move through life as though your desire were already a fact. It is the highest form of faith and the purest act of creation. When you live in the end, you are not waiting, hoping, or wishing. You are knowing. You have shifted your awareness from longing to being, from desire to fulfillment. The end is the place where imagination rests. It is the spiritual conclusion that precedes the physical beginning. All manifestation springs from this principle, for creation is finished, and every possible reality exists now within consciousness. The one who lives in the end understands that the outer world is always lagging behind the inner world. What appears in time is only the shadow of what has already been accepted in imagination. Therefore, to wait for evidence before assuming the feeling of fulfillment is to reverse the law. You do not wait to feel successful until success appears. You feel successful first, and the outer world must follow. You do not wait to be loved until someone declares their affection. You feel loved first, and life brings that feeling into expression. This is not pretending. It is the creative act of assuming your true position as cause rather than effect. When you live in the end, you no longer react to appearances. You cease judging by what the senses report, for the senses are servants of belief. If you believe in delay, they will show you delay. If you believe in separation, they will show you separation. But if you persist in the inner knowing that your desire is already real, the senses must eventually bow to that conviction. The world cannot resist the command of a sustained assumption. It must bend itself into harmony with the inner picture you have accepted as true. Living in the end requires a quiet boldness, a willingness to ignore appearances that contradict your vision. It is to stand unmoved in the face of seeming failure, knowing that the invisible reality is the only true one. The outer world is not the cause, it is the effect. The unseen imagination is the cause. Therefore, when you imagine lovingly, when you assume the feeling of fulfillment, you are working at the root of creation. To live in the end is to act from the invisible center rather than react to the visible surface. Suppose you wish to manifest health after a long illness. Living in the end would not mean denying the symptoms or pretending they do not exist. It means quietly withdrawing attention from them and turning inward to feel the vitality of perfect health. You imagine yourself strong, active, and free. You walk, talk, and breathe in consciousness as one who is already whole. You persist in that state until it becomes your natural feeling. The body, being the shadow of consciousness, must conform. Healing is not achieved by fighting disease, but by assuming wholeness. The same law applies to love, success, or any desire. When you live in the end of being loved, you do not check whether someone loves you yet. You live from the knowing that love is already yours. You feel the companionship, the joy, the mutual affection as though it were a present fact. That feeling, sustained in imagination, draws all things necessary to express it. The other person plays the role that your assumption has assigned. They may appear to act freely, but unseen, they are responding to the vibration of your fulfilled state. To live in the end is to dwell in the consciousness of completion. You no longer seek, for you have found. You no longer ask, for you have received. Every desire, no matter how distant it seems, has an imaginal counterpart already existing in consciousness. You simply align yourself with it by feeling that it is so. When the inner state becomes natural, it outpictures itself automatically. You need not strain or force. Creation unfolds by law. The beginner often finds this difficult because the senses insist that the opposite is true. They say, I cannot feel wealthy when I see no money. I cannot feel loved when I am alone. But this is misunderstanding the principle. Feeling comes first, and the evidence follows. The law is not, seeing is believing, but believing is seeing. You must dare to occupy the end state before any physical proof appears. You must feel it real before reason can explain it. The world is imagination objectified. It cannot resist the inner conviction of fulfillment. Living in the end is not a one-time act, but a way of life. Each day offers the choice to dwell in fulfillment or fall back into doubt. You train the mind to remain in the state of your wish fulfilled until it feels normal. When it becomes your natural dwelling place, manifestation is effortless. The outer world becomes a reflection of the inner stability you have achieved. Events move, people act, and circumstances align to make visible what you have already accepted inwardly. This practice requires discipline, but not struggle. It is not about controlling thoughts every moment, but about maintaining the inner mood of fulfillment. Even if outer facts contradict you, do not argue with them. Simply return inward to your end state and rest there. The world cannot resist the persistence of feeling. What you consistently occupy within must take shape without. The law is exact and unfailing. To live in the end is to make the invisible more real to you than the visible. It is to close the eyes of sense and open the eyes of faith. You learn to trust imagination more than appearances, knowing that appearances are transient and imagination eternal. When you can feel your wish fulfilled so vividly that outer reality seems secondary, you have already won. The bridge of incidents will unfold naturally to bring about your desire, and you will find yourself living in the physical expression of what you once imagined. You are always living in some end, whether you are aware of it or not. The poor live in the end of poverty. The sick live in the end of illness. The happy live in the end of joy. You cannot escape living in an end, because consciousness must always assume a state. Therefore, choose your end deliberately. Choose the feeling of the wish fulfilled and live from it until it becomes fact. Every day ask yourself, am I living in the end of my desire or in the end of its absence? Your answer determines the direction of your life. Living in the end is the art of faith in action. It is knowing that what you imagine with feeling is more real than what you see with your eyes. It is resting in the invisible conviction that the thing hoped for already exists. When you live from the end, you no longer need to chase, worry, or strive. You simply are the fulfilled state, and the world by law mirrors it back to you. Outer effort repels, inner faith attracts. This is a law as exact as gravity, though unseen and spiritual in nature. The world has been taught to labor endlessly for what could be received effortlessly through belief. Man has been conditioned to chase shadows, to fight for outcomes, to struggle against appearances, thinking that by force of action he can bend life to his will. Yet, all that striving reveals only ignorance of the deeper law, the law that says the outer is but the reflection of the inner. Until one masters that truth, every effort will breed resistance. Every attempt to seize will push the desired thing farther away. For what is sought in anxiety cannot dwell in peace, and what is demanded through fear cannot answer in love. To live by this principle is to understand that effort born of tension is the confession of unbelief. When you try to make things happen, you declare that they are not already yours. That very declaration becomes the barrier that prevents them from appearing. Faith, on the other hand, assumes that the desire is fulfilled now. It moves calmly, confidently, without strain. It acts not to make something happen, but because it knows it has already happened. Faith is stillness in motion. Effort is motion without stillness. One creates, the other delays creation. Every outer action has an inner root. If the root is fear, the fruit will be bitter no matter how hard you labor. You may gain what you sought, but it will slip away again. For nothing gained through struggle can endure. Only that which flows from inner alignment remains. The invisible feeling of already being fulfilled is the true magnet that draws circumstances to you. You cannot attract what you feel separate from. You can only magnetize what you inwardly unite with. Observe nature, and you will see this law reflected everywhere. The flower does not strain to bloom. The sun does not hurry to rise. Each fulfills its purpose effortlessly because it abides in the rhythm of its own nature. So too must man align himself with his own creative rhythm, the rhythm of faith. When he believes, he allows. He does not grasp or chase, he receives. To believe is to rest in the assurance that what you imagine is real, that what you have felt in consciousness is already completed in the unseen. Outer action then becomes a joyful expression of that inner certainty, not a desperate attempt to create it. Effort repels because it carries the vibration of lack, Every time you struggle to get, you affirm that you do not have. The subconscious, being impartial, receives that feeling and reproduces more of it. You think you are acting to solve a problem, but the very act strengthens the belief that the problem exists. You may pray with words of faith, but if you feel anxiety while praying, you are declaring that you do not yet possess the answer. The universe does not respond to the words, it responds to the feeling beneath them. Faith attracts because it lives in the end. It assumes the result and rests there. The mind that has faith no longer wonders when or how. It simply knows. This knowing releases resistance, allowing life to flow toward it without obstruction. Imagine the calm of one who has already arrived at the destination, compared with the agitation of one still searching the way. Both may walk the same road, but their journeys feel entirely different. Faith travels with grace, effort stumbles in exhaustion. To cultivate inner faith, one must learn stillness. In quiet imagination, feel the reality of your wish fulfilled. Do not force the image. Let it arise naturally, and let the feeling of completion settle upon you. When you come out of that state, resist the temptation to doubt. Do not measure the distance between your current circumstances and the vision you hold. Instead, carry the quiet assurance that the unseen is moving. That assurance is faith in action. The moment you feel compelled to do something, out of fear that nothing is happening, you have stepped out of faith and into effort. True action flows from inspiration, not desperation. When you are aligned inwardly, when you have accepted the state of fulfillment, life will move you to act in perfect harmony with that assumption. You may feel a sudden impulse to call someone, to visit a place, to begin a project. These are not forced efforts, they are movements of the same power that imagine the desire. Such actions are effortless because they are born of faith, not anxiety. They carry no resistance and always lead to success, for they are the natural outworking of an inner conviction. When you labor from the mind of effort, you are like a man rowing against the current. Your strength drains quickly and the goal remains distant. But when you act from faith, you are like one who drifts with the tide. The current carries you without strain. The secret is not in the outer movement, but in the inner state from which the movement arises. The world applauds effort, yet true mastery belongs to the one who trusts. He does less and achieves more because he has discovered the hidden cause of all achievement. Faith in the unseen reality. Many misunderstand this law, believing it means to sit idly and do nothing. That is not faith, that is apathy. Faith acts, but its actions are effortless, joyful, and certain. Effort acts from fear, and its movements are strained, anxious, and uncertain. The difference is not in what is done, but in the spirit with which it is done. You may perform the same outward deed, yet when done in faith it bears fruit, and when done in doubt it withers. The one who walks by inner faith becomes magnetic. Without demanding, they attract. Without pleading, they receive. People are drawn to them, opportunities arise, doors open seemingly of their own accord. This is not coincidence, but law. The world responds to the feeling of certainty as surely as a compass points north. You cannot hide what you believe. It radiates silently and shapes the conditions around you. So learn to cultivate faith as a living presence within. Each day, remind yourself that you are the operant power. Your outer world will always reflect the tone of your inner world. If you are restless within, you will find the world uncooperative. But if you are still and assured, life becomes harmonious. The more you release the need to control, the more control you gain. The more you trust, the faster things align. Outer effort repels because it is the language of fear. Inner faith attracts because it is the language of creation. When you rest in faith, you enter the creative current of life, and everything necessary for your fulfillment flows to you naturally. The world yields to the one who knows it is already done. You are the operant power. There is no other cause, no external force shaping your destiny, no hidden authority deciding your fate. The entire drama of your life, every joy and sorrow, every meeting and parting, every success and failure, originates in your own consciousness. You are not a passive spectator in the theater of existence. You are the playwright, the actor, and the audience all at once. To know this is freedom, to ignore it is bondage. The great truth is that nothing happens to you except what you, knowingly or unknowingly, have imagined and felt to be true. The moment you recognize yourself as the operant power, the center of creation shifts from the world around you to the world within you. No longer can you blame circumstance, fortune, or the will of others. The state you occupy inwardly is the cause, and the outer world is only the effect. This understanding is not meant to burden you with guilt, but to awaken you to mastery. For if you have created unconsciously, you can now create consciously. If fear once ruled your imagination, faith can now command it. If limitation once guided your vision, freedom can now expand it. The world is consciousness objectified. The house you live in, the people you meet, the opportunities that come or vanish, all are shadows cast by the state of mind you sustain. You may protest and say, "But I did not choose this." Yet your acceptance of limitation, your habitual feelings of doubt or inferiority, were the silent choices that shaped your experience. The subconscious receives every feeling as a decree and builds your world accordingly. You cannot escape this law, you can only learn to use it. You may not have known you were imagining, but life has faithfully mirrored every inner act, whether born of love or fear. To be the operant power means to understand that imagination is not a passive faculty, but a living creative force. Each time you imagine a scene with feeling, you set creation in motion. The unseen responds instantly, beginning to organize events to match your assumption. You are never waiting for the universe to decide when or how. It is waiting for you to decide what you truly believe. The law cannot operate without an operator, and that operator is your own consciousness. The unawakened man believes that life happens to him. He blames others for his misfortune and credits chance for his blessings. He does not realize that both arise from the same source, his inner state. The awakened one sees the same law working perfectly in all things. When he experiences joy, he traces it to the feeling of abundance he once held within. When he meets adversity, he does not condemn the world, he examines his state and changes it. He understands that life can only reflect the mood he sustains. This knowledge grants peace, for he no longer fears outer circumstances. He knows that to change anything, he must first change himself. You are the operant power, not the observer of power. It is not enough to know the law, you must apply it. Reading about imagination will not alter your life any more than studying the concept of fire will warm your hands. You must feel the fire. You must enter into the state of your desire and live from it until it becomes natural. Knowledge without use is like a map never unfolded. The map shows the path, but only the traveler's steps make it real. When you imagine, you are giving the command that sets creation in motion. The subconscious does not decide what is good or bad, possible or impossible. It obeys the impression you make upon it. If you feel lack, it will produce more lack. If you feel abundance, it will overflow your life with opportunities to match that state. The law is impartial. It mirrors whatever you assume to be true. This is why it is said that as you sow, so shall you reap. What you sow is not action but imagination. What you reap is not punishment or reward but reflection. To operate this power consciously, you must learn to live from the end, to feel your wish fulfilled, and to persist in that feeling regardless of outer evidence. When the senses contradict your vision, do not be swayed. The outer world is but yesterday's imaginal act. It will fade as the new state grows strong. The operant power never doubts, for it knows the outer must follow the inner. When a gardener plants a seed, he does not dig it up each day to check its progress. He knows it will sprout in due time. So too must you trust the process of your imagination. The one who knows he is the operant power lives in quiet confidence. He no longer pleads with life to change, he commands it by assuming the state desired. He understands that prayer is not asking but claiming, not hoping but knowing. When he imagines with feeling, he is decreeing reality. The unseen responds immediately, and what is decreed inwardly must one day appear outwardly. This is not arrogance, it is alignment with the creative nature of consciousness itself. Many seek teachers, methods, or rituals to change their circumstances, not realizing that the power they seek is already within. No outer practice can replace the inner act of imagination. The moment you feel yourself to be what you desire, you have operated the law. The key is persistence. Do not waver between states, remain loyal to the end you have chosen. When doubts arise, return again to the feeling of fulfillment. Every return strengthens the impression until it becomes fixed, and then the world must yield. To realize yourself as the operant power is to take divine responsibility for your life. It means you no longer see yourself as a victim of circumstance or the whim of others. You know that nothing can come to you except what you have called forth through your assumptions. This awareness brings both humility and strength. Humility, because you see that you are the cause of all you experience. Strength, because you know you can change any condition by changing your consciousness. So, stand firm in this knowledge. There is no power outside of you. The creative act begins and ends within your imagination. The law works perfectly and impersonally. You are its operator, and it will never move until you move it through feeling. When you understand this, life ceases to be a struggle and becomes a deliberate art. The world, once a mystery, becomes your canvas, and every thought, every feeling, every assumption becomes a stroke upon it. And as you create within, so shall it be reflected without, for you are, and have always been, the operant power of your world. When the whole teaching is gathered into a single truth, it is this: the outer world is the mirror of your inner world, and imagination joined with feeling is the only creative power. Every keynote leads back to the same source, consciousness. You are not a being adrift in chance, waiting for life to favor you. You are life itself expressing through form. When you understand that imagination creates reality, that every person and event is yourself pushed out, you cease chasing and begin creating. You realize that nothing is won through outer struggle, but through the quiet mastery of inner assumption. The mind that once begged now commands. The heart that once feared now trusts. You no longer wait for evidence to prove your faith. You live from faith, and evidence follows. You learn to feel your wish fulfilled, to live in the end, to move in silence knowing the unseen has already arranged the visible. You rest in the certainty that what you imagine with love and persist in feeling must harden into fact. Every desire, every dream, every longing is a call to awaken, to recognize yourself as the cause. You are the operant power, the architect of every moment. Through imagination, you sow; through feeling, you water; through faith, you harvest. The law does not fail, and consciousness never sleeps. It responds faithfully, impartially, eternally. Therefore, guard your inner world as sacred. Let every thought be noble, every feeling constructive, every assumption rooted in love. For what you hold within today will shape the world you meet tomorrow. Live not as one seeking signs, but as one who knows that creation is already complete. Persist in the unseen until it stands before you in form. And when you have proven the law in your own experience, you will no longer doubt. You will know that imagination, feeling, and faith are not mere ideas. They are the very substance of reality. You will walk this world in quiet wonder, understanding that nothing is impossible, for all things are possible to the one who imagines rightly and believes it done.